Hello, Miss Polari here. We are about to begin our lesson and we are reading the book The Richest Man in Babylon. We are in chapter 3. We're in page 21. And I read the first few pages with you and we discussed the first cure. The first cure or the first rule to being wealthy and successful is start thy purse to fattening. And we already know because we spent the first few chapters reviewing and going over and over again. And that same foundation, rule number one, or cure number one, to start thy purse to fattening means that a part of all you earn is yours to keep, and that's 10%. You can do more, but 10%. So it's basically teaching you to live off 90% of your income, and you always save. 10% of your income goes into saving. You save it, is yours to keep. That is the foundation. That is how you always start your purse to fattening, because it becomes a habit and you always do it. So it keeps growing and growing and growing. All right. So that's number one. So cure number two. We're going to go through it. There's 7. So finally, getting to number 2, right? All right. And we may run into some vocabulary words, so listen carefully. The second cure is control thy expenditures. What's expenditures? What? So expenditures, what you're spending. Your expenditures can be groceries, can be clothing, can be your mortgage or rent, right? Car payment. Expenditures can be bills you pay, electricity, water, gas, credit cards, right? Fun money, lunch money, vacation money. We all have many expenditures, right? So, number 1 is control thy expenditures. Here we go. Some of your members, my students, have asked me this. How can a man keep 1/10 of all he earns in his purse when all the coins he earns are not enough for his necessary expenses? So did our God address his students upon the second day. So in the story, remember, he was only teaching him one rule or one cure per day. And they were 100 people, teachers, right? Yesterday, how many of thee carried lean purses? All of us, answered the class. Yet thou do not all earn the same. Some earn much more than others. Some have much larger families to support, yet all purses were equally lean. Now, I will tell thee an unusual truth about men and sons of men. It is this, that what each of us calls our necessary expenses will always grow to equal our incomes unless we protest to the contrary. What do you mean? What's protest? What's protest? What is it? What is the word protest? So when you protest, you stand firm against something that's happening. You stand firm against something that's happening. Either you say something or you do something. You stand firm against by saying something or doing something that is happening, okay? And during these times, during the quarantine, you're in the news and through articles, you're going to see a lot of protests during this quarantine of people that do not agree with certain laws that are being passed, right? So you'll see protests all throughout the nation. So protest is when people stand firm against what is happening, whether something they do or say. So that's what he's saying. He's saying you have to protest against this, okay? Against spending all of your income. All right, let's keep going here. Okay. Confuse not the necessary expenses with thy desires. I know we do that. Each of you together with your good families have more desires than your earnings can gratify. Therefore are thy earnings, the money that you get, spent to gratify, so to please, right? Insofar as they will go. Still thou retainest many ungratified desires. It means there's many things that you want that don't get fulfilled, right? All men are burdened with more desires than they can gratify. What's burden? So when you have a burden, that is like an obligation, or you feel like it's an obligation, right? And they're burdened, they want something else. They have this, they feel they're obliged to something else, and many are burdened with more desires than they can gratify. So we all want a lot of things that our situation, our income um, doesn't allow for us to have. So many of us have a dream to travel around the world. Maybe some people have a dream to own a swimming pool and they just can't afford it right now, right? Maybe it's just a desire to buy a home, but it's not, the money's not there yet, right? So we all have all types of desires, right? Because of my wealth, thinkest thou I may gratify every desire? That is false, a false idea. There are limits to my time. There are limits to my strength. There are limits to the distance I may travel. There are limits to what I may eat. There are limits to the zest with which I may enjoy. I say to you that just as weeds grow in a field, wherever the farmer leaves space for their roots, even so freely do desires grow in men, whenever there is a possibility of their being gratified. Thy desires are a multitude, and that thou mayest gratify are but few. So we want a lot more, but we can't always fulfill these, right? Study thoughtfully thy accustomed habits of living. Herein may be most often found certain accepted expenses that may wisely be reduced or eliminated. So there may be a habit that you're doing that it's not necessary. So maybe you shouldn't go out to eat 3 to 4 times a week. Maybe you should go out to eat once or twice a week or once per week. Maybe that desire isn't a necessity. See where I'm going with this? All right. Therefore, engrave upon the clay each thing. So write these things down for which thou desirest to spend. So you're going to write down what you want to spend your money in. Select those that are necessary. Then you write down what's necessary, and others that are possible through the expenditure of 9/10 of thy income. So you're going to put a list, he's saying, of the things that are absolutely necessary and the things that you are spending your money in, but you have to make a budget. It's basically what he's saying, but not on the entire income that you have, only 90% of it. So your budget has to be on 90% of it, not that 10%, because that 10% rule can't be touched. That's always for saving. Okay, let's see here. Cross out the rest and consider them but a part of that great multitude of desires that must go unsatisfied, and regret them not. Okay, so whatever is not in that budget, you're not going to fulfill it. You're going to learn that every desire that you have, every want that you have is not going to be satisfied. You're not going to regret it either. You're going to learn. Okay. Budget then thy necessary expenses. So you're going to make a budget on what you absolutely need to live. Food, clothes, shelter, certain experiences, right? That you have to pay your bills and etc. Okay. Touch not the 1/10 that is fattening thy purse. Remember that. You don't touch that 10% that's fattening your purse. Okay. Let this be thy great desire that is being fulfilled. Keep working with thy budget. Keep adjusting it to help thee. Make it thy first assistant in defending thy fattening purse. So we're always working on and writing down, where am I overspending? Where am I overspending, and where do I need to buy or spend what is absolutely necessary? Okay. Hereupon, so budget. So controlling thy expenditures The way you control your expenditures, your spending, is by having a budget. You know where your money's going. Okay? So let's see here. Maybe some people are overspending and going out to eat. Maybe some people are overspending in shopping and going to Target and Walmart and things that they don't need. Okay? Watch. You have to do a budget and assign. I can spend only this much on clothes, this much on whatever that your budget allows. Okay? Let's see here. Hereupon one of the students, wearing a robe of red and gold, arose and said, I am a free man. I believe that it is my right to enjoy the good things of life. Therefore do I rebel against the slavery of a budget, which determines just how much I may spend and for what. I feel it would take much pleasure from my life and make me little more than a pack. Some of these words I kind of skip over because they're not words that we use today. So I'm just going to skip over this word. Basically, he's saying that he's a dummy to carry a burden. So he feels that having a budget is above him and it makes him a slave, and it's a burden to carry a budget. I would make it for myself, responded the protesting one. In that case, were a dummy, let's just say that's the word that they're using, to budget his burden, would he include therein jewels and rugs and heavy bars of gold? Not so. He would include hay and grain and a bag of water for the desert trail. The purpose of a budget is to help thy purse to fatten. It is to assist thee to have thy necessities, and insofar as attainable, thy other desires. It is to enable thee to realize thy most cherished desires by defending them from the casual wishes. Like a bright light in a dark cave, thy budget shows up the leaks from thy purse and enables thee to stop them and control thy expenditures for definite and gratifying purposes. So far, this is saying that having a budget is there to help you see where you're misspending or where you're losing money, right? It's to show you where your money's going. This, then, is the second cure for a lean purse. Budget thy expenses, that thou mayest have coins to pay for the necessities, to pay for the enjoyments, and to gratify thy worthwhile desires without spending more than 9/10 of thy earnings. I'm going to stop right there. The next one is the third cure. So in this second cure is control thy expenditures by having a budget on 90% of your income. Writing a list, what do I absolutely need to survive and live? And what do I enjoy or want? And maybe you'll see that you're misspending in certain areas and you really don't need to spend all that money in shopping because you maybe one item, maybe you didn't need 10. Or maybe you, like I said earlier, maybe you didn't need to eat out 4 or 5 days a week. Because you're losing money. Let's just eat 1 or 2 days a week, or 2 to 3 versus 4 to 5. So having that budget allows you to see where you're leaking money. So you write down what you absolutely have to pay and then what you don't. Okay? All right. So I will assign you an assignment, and we're going to go over the first 2 rules of being successful and being wealthy, and I may introduce a few new vocabulary words to your assignment. All right? Take care. Complete your assignments. Bye.